Imagine you're in the glittering, whisper-filled halls of 12th century Kyoto. A new woman has appeared at the emperor's side. She's perfect. Maybe a little too perfect. In just a few weeks, the entire court is obsessed with her charm. But within months, the emperor starts coughing up blood, his life draining away before their very eyes. Then, less than a year later, the most feared mystic in the realm uncovers a secret so chilling it will make your skin crawl. The empire's beautiful new darling isn't a woman at all. She is a nine-tailed fox demon, an ancient evil who had already toppled dynasties in China and India. And Japan, it seemed, was her next target. Most stories about Kitsune, the fox spirits of Japanese folklore, are meant to teach you a lesson. Respect their cleverness, fear their tricks. But the story of Tamamo-no-Mae, that's something else entirely. This isn't just a myth, it's a warning whispered across centuries. It tells you that the most dangerous monster isn't the one with claws and fangs. It's the one who knows your deepest secrets, your favorite wine, and exactly what to say to keep you smiling as your life force seeps out of your body. How terrifying is that? Tonight, we're following her sinister trail, from her ancient origins on the mainland to the emperor's own bedchamber. We'll follow the man who dared to unmask her, the warriors who hunted her down, and the cursed volcanic stone that still terrifies people 9 centuries later. By the time we're done, you'll understand why her name is still whispered when the fire dies down and the room grows cold with an ancient, unspoken dread. Picture Kyoto, around the year 1150. The air in the palace is thick with the deceptive smell of cloves and sandalwood. Inside, Emperor Kono, barely a teenager, is lonely and troubled. He's desperate for a distraction from the famine in the streets and the scheming of his own family. And then, she appears. Tamamo-no-Mae, a new lady-in-waiting, but no one seemed to have actually hired her. She simply was there. She moves through the halls with an unnatural grace, her hair so dark and glossy it seems to drink the light. Her robes are always pristine, always cool to the touch, even in the blistering summer heat, as if they defy the laws of nature. Court records speak of her frightening intellect. She could recite complex Chinese poetry backwards, just for fun. She could predict a lunar eclipse with an abacus made of incense sticks. Her scent was always lotus after a rain, a fragrance that was both delicate and unsettlingly persistent. The young, lonely emperor fell completely under her spell. Within a week, she was his personal tutor. Within a fortnight, she was his nightly companion. Of course, the court officials were suspicious. Who was this woman? Where did she come from? But every test they gave her, she passed with an eerie, supernatural ease. Soon, even the most hardened skeptics were captivated by her. The commoners called her the jewel that banished darkness, a name usually reserved for holy monks, not a court lady. If you walked through the capital that spring, you'd hear her praises being sung on every corner. Everything seemed to glow in her presence, right up until the emperor doubled over, a spray of crimson blooming on his silk sleeve. The glow had been nothing but a beautiful, deadly illusion. The imperial doctors were stumped. They blamed a fever, then cursed wine, then just simple exhaustion. They had no real answers. What they didn't see was the new trinket around the emperor's neck. A delicate fox-shaped jade pendant that Tamamo-no-Mae had given him to focus the mind. But the court astrologer, Abe no Yasuchika, saw it. He was a master of onmyodo, the ancient Japanese art of divination and exorcism. He spent his nights watching the stars, a cold dread growing in his stomach. He noticed that every time the emperor's health took a turn for the worse, that little jade pendant would pulse with a faint, malevolent light, like a second, unnatural heartbeat. His divination tools kept pointing to the same ominous symbol: devourer clothed in beauty. The suspicion in his gut became a hard, cold certainty. His first test was subtle. He sprinkled consecrated salt, a powerful purifying agent, across the floor of the Great Hall. When Tamamo-no-Mae walked by, her footprints sizzled, leaving behind faint scorch marks where the human ladies left no trace. He knew then, but he also knew the court was too blinded by her charm to believe him. He needed undeniable proof. His solution was a grand, public incense rite. Every lady of the court would be required to light a stick of incense and recite a sacred purification prayer. But Abe had a secret weapon. The incense was laced with dogwood root, a substance known in folklore to force a shapeshifter to reveal its true form or be destroyed. Word of the rite spread like a disease. On the day it was to be held, rain hammered against the palace, matching the tension inside. One by one, the court ladies approached the brazier, lit their incense, and recited the words. Then, it was her turn. The hall fell silent. A collective breath was held. Tamamo-no-Mae stepped forward, a faint, unreadable smile on her lips. She lifted the glowing stick, and then, in a terrifying sulphurous cloud of smoke, she vanished. All that was left was a scorched patch of the mat, shaped exactly like the print of a fox. The emperor fainted. Abe's chilling theory was now a horrifying reality. The throne of Japan was facing a nine-tailed monster, an ancient evil older than the capital itself. No one really knows where Tamamo-no-Mae came from before she arrived in Kyoto. Her past was as elusive as her true form. Some say she was the bitter spirit of a 1,000-year-old fox from the mountains of an ancient Korean kingdom. Others claim she was once a concubine in ancient China, a goddess of cruelty named Daji who orchestrated the fall of the entire Shang dynasty. This wasn't her first time. One account claims she drifted across the sea as a white mist, possessing the body of a farmer's daughter and using it to perfect her deadly charms. Whatever her origin, her method was always the same: seduction, then destruction. First, she would get close to a ruler, making herself indispensable. Then, she would offer them a drink, secretly laced with a single hair from one of her tails, a dark spell that bound their life force to hers. And then, slowly, she would begin to feed, siphoning their vitality, their will to live, their very essence, until their kingdom was left in ruins. Abe's records estimated she had already done this 3 times. Japan, he realized with a jolt of terror, was meant to be number 4. Once her cover was blown, Tamamo-no-Mae fled east, a blur of white fur against the green fields. The emperor, barely alive but filled with a righteous rage, summoned his 2 greatest warriors, Kazusa no Suke, a hardened general, and Miura no Suke, a young archer so skilled he could supposedly shoot a dragonfly out of the air. Both men were tired of the politics of the court and jumped at the chance for a real hunt. With 150 mounted scouts and a pack of trained wolfhounds, they rode out after the fox, following the faint trail of scorched earth and the lingering sweet scent of lotus that she always left in her wake. The chase was on. The hunt for Tamamo-no-Mae wasn't a sprint. It was a brutal, year-long marathon that crossed 9 provinces. Rumors spread like wildfire. Villagers swore they saw a flash of white fur near Edo's harbor. Fishermen west of Mount Fuji would find their chicken coops torn open, with not a single drop of blood to be found, just an eerie absence of life. Each whisper, each strange event, pushed the hunters forward. Winter finally cornered them on the desolate plain of Nasu. It was a dead, volcanic wasteland that reeked of sulfur, a place the locals called where the earth's bones breathe poison. Even the wolves wouldn't go near it. Kazusa, the practical general, wanted to find a way around, but Mayura, exhausted and on edge, had a strange and vivid dream. In it, a beautiful, snow-white fox begged him for its life. "Spare me," it whispered, "and I will give you 10 chests of gold." But Mayura woke with a single, clear thought: no mercy. At dawn, the hounds started barking at a strange, distant rock. Mayura drew his bow, the arrowhead glowing with a potent poison. He fired 1 shot, then 2, then 3. A raw, ancient shriek tore through the icy air. The rock convulsed, shedding its stony skin until a magnificent 9-tailed fox, its tails as long as pine trees, burst into the air. Kazusa's men formed a ring of spears. The battle lasted for hours, a brutal, desperate struggle against a supernatural force. Tails whipped like tornadoes, and claws tore deep gashes in the frozen ground. Finally, Mayura managed to lodge an arrow directly between the fox's eyes. As it stumbled, Kazusa's blade flashed, slicing through its spine. Tamamo-no-Mae collapsed. Her blood hissed and steamed as it hit the volcanic soil. With her dying breath, she cursed the entire line of emperors and promised her evil spirit would outlive them all. The warriors burned the body, but it wouldn't turn to ash. In the center of the pyre, they found a smooth, dark stone, as warm as living flesh, pulsing with a faint energy. Her essence, compressed into a single lethal object. They named it the Sesshō-seki, the killing stone, and posted warnings that travelers still heed today. If legends like this fascinate you, the kind where history, myth, and terror blur together, make sure you're subscribed. We uncover stories like this from every corner of the world, where fear truly has no borders. They say the Sesshō-seki, the cursed killing stone, killed anything that came near it. Birds that flew over it would just fall out of the sky, dead before they hit the ground. Monks who tried to pray beside it would start bleeding from their eyes. For 200 years, a local lord even taxed travelers for fox curse insurance. Then, a traveling Buddhist priest named Geno heard the villagers' terrified stories and decided to act. For 49 days, he chanted sutras beside the stone, his voice a constant challenge to its silent malevolence. On the final night, as the wind howled, the stone cracked in half with a deafening boom. A sigh, smelling faintly of lotus, escaped from the fissure. Some say Tamamo-no-Mae's spirit finally broke apart, scattering into harmless fireflies. Others believe it fled, looking for a new body to inhabit. All that was known for sure was that fewer people died suddenly and mysteriously in the area after that. The stone remained fractured, but stable for centuries, until March of 2022. That's when hikers found the ancient rock split completely in 2. Its massive chunks tumbled down the slope. Within hours, #Tamamo Free was trending on Japanese Twitter, a mix of dark humor and genuine fear. Some blamed earthquakes or the weather, but many others swore they saw a ghostly white fox outlined against the moon, finally free. Park rangers insist that it was just freeze-thaw cycles that finally broke the stone apart. But tell that to the local souvenir shops, which now sell out of fox mask keychains faster than they can stock them. Whether it was a coincidence or a terrifying comeback, the story proves one thing. Tamamo-no-Mae still slinks through our modern world, ready to be blamed for our fears. Her legend, it seems, is far from over. Speaking of the modern world, you might think this is just an old story, but she's still here, hiding in plain sight. If you've ever played the mobile game Fate Grand Order, you've already met Tamamo. She appears as a reformed caster-class servant, a sly nod to her dark past. And if you're a fan of Naruto, you already know Kurama, the massive nine-tailed fox whose power can level mountains, a clear echo of Tamamo's destructive potential. You can even play as her in the game Smite. Manga and anime artists love her. Why? She has a tragic backstory, a seductive design, and unbelievable power. She's a creator's dream. But nearly every modern version of her story smooths over the dark political warning of the original legend. The story of a beautiful, deceptive outsider was used in medieval Japan as a warning against foreign influence, or perhaps against powerful women who got too close to the throne. But today, she's often turned into an anti-hero, a symbol of rebellion instead of a creature of pure terror. Still, the core of the myth survives. It's a timeless warning. Beware of charisma that has no conscience. Beware of beauty that has no soul. And here's another strange detail. Every single region she supposedly terrorized now proudly claims her tomb is a local tourist attraction. There are killing stones in Nara, Ishikawa, and a dozen other places. It's been called the Tamamo effect, fear neatly packaged and sold as heritage. Whether you see her as a demon, a rebel, or just a dark metaphor, she represents a terrifying truth. Empires may be built on order, but they fall when obsession makes them blind to the monster right in front of them. So what can this ancient horror story tell us right now? First, it's a reminder that talent without a moral compass is just a weapon. Tamamo-no-Mae's intelligence and charm could have brought an era of peace. Instead, she chose destruction. Second, any system that depends entirely on the stability of one person, whether it's an emperor or a CEO, is incredibly fragile. The fox just exposed a weakness that was already there. Third, exposing a terrible truth often requires an outsider, someone like Abe no Yasuchika, who was willing to risk his reputation and his life to speak a truth that no one wanted to hear. And finally, the most enduring lesson. Stories like this don't just die. They break apart. They reform. They seep into our games and our nightmares. The moment we think we're safe, the fox flicks its tail and whispers, "This time, I promise, I'm on your side." And just like that, the horror begins all over again. If this story sent a chill down your spine, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. There are more forgotten myths out there that still, somehow, shape our world. Drop a comment below and tell us which yokai you fear the most. Share this video with a friend who loves anime and dark folklore. And remember, the next time you meet someone who seems a little too perfect, a little too charming, check for that faint scent of lotus on the air. It might just save your life. And if that story left you wanting more, stay tuned for next Friday's legend. We're heading back to Japan for another nightmare that hides in plain sight. They say if you ever find yourself alone in a public restroom and hear a soft voice ask, "Do you want the red paper or the blue?" Choose carefully. Because either answer might summon Manto, the red cape. From a perfumed palace to a poisoned stone, Tamamo-no-Mae is without a doubt Japan's most devious seductress. She was a monster who weaponized charm and perfected the art of manipulation long before the modern world even existed. Her stone, the Sesshō-seki, might be cracked and roped off, nothing more than a tourist spot. But her legend is not. It's out there, waiting. It prowls through every story that warns us to question beauty and guard our own lives. So keep your eyes open, and if you're ever walking alone on a moonlit night and catch a sweet, impossible scent of lotus on the wind, do not follow it. Because the jewel that once banished darkness might just be waiting to devour yours. This is horror across borders, where fear has no boundaries.